Welcome back, everybody, to yet another live show here on the O'Shea Duke Jackson vlogcast channel. I promise we won't be on too long today, but I think that this is going to be a very, very good show and a show that is probably definitely going to be needed with a lot of different vantage points tonight. And we have an excellent group to weigh in on it. The topic of today's show is moving out of the United States, the best idea for black men. This is a very, 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 very talked about topic here in the black manosphere. There are a lot of channels that are dedicated to it. One gentleman in particular who there are two channels when I first came to YouTube that I watched. One was Philco. He's a black man that's living in Russia currently, and then the late great Charles Tyler show that was going back and forth between Brazil, and they had their own personal opinions about it. And currently I'm living in Poland. I've been here for almost 2.5 years. So tonight, right now, we have Edward Anderson. We got the great Mr. Research and my big bro Exanatos Clutch. So we have a very experienced crowd tonight here on the panel. Let me go ahead and let them introduce themselves, starting with Clutch, and we'll work our way on. So what's going on, Clutch?
Hey, what's good, O'Shea? Just chilling, hanging out here in a place that probably has just as much black people as percentage as you in Poland via Utah. So I can definitely attest to a lot of what we're going to be saying, at least even when it comes to just the domestically moving away from a predominantly black neighborhood and so forth. But yeah, Santos Clutch. I'm just basically another shit talker on YouTube who calls out fuckery from all sides to the point, whether it's fuckery on the left, fuckery on the right. But as of late, I've been trying to guide black men on how they can be elite to an extent. So yeah, my channel is basically just your base non-ghetto black male channel.
All right. And shout out to JL Edwards. Let's get it all-star panel. Let's go to Mr. Research, man. Mr. Research, what's going on, man? Is he there?
He's muted.
Take yourself off mute, Mr. Research.
I'll say everything's pretty good, man. Out here, doing good. I just got back from one of my dance classes. That's why I was sitting up here dressed the way I am.
And I see you look like a player, brother.
Man, look, my conversation is legendary. You just ain't heard it because you ain't no chick. But with that aside, man, finna enjoy the show, chop up some real conversation, and looking at my orange tree. Look at this crazy orange tree, man. I got house problems, man. I gotta do something with this orange tree because my apple tree is growing into my orange tree, and I gotta prune that. And I'm trying to find a black guy. I've been trying for the past 4 months to find a black dude to prune my tree. But my point of bringing that up is, we as black men, we got to start having land problems, land ownership problems.
Okay, it's looking real good, brother. So I know I ain't even got a apple juice, let alone a damn tree. So shout out to Mr. Research, and let's go to my last but definitely not least, the most known unknown YouTuber in the black YouTube. That's Edward Anderson. What's going on, Edward?
Not much appreciated. Wow, Mr. Research deal with that tree on tree crime. Let me introduce myself for a minute. So my name is Edward Anderson. I'm kind of like Xanatos Clutch. I'm a guy that just tries to use my little channel as an outlet for talk about black male productivity, kind of like actionable stuff, getting stuff done, referring to other people who's got some really good information, like O'Shea, the Negro Manosphere, the Forum, and other outlets. And, we chop it up. We talk about a lot of stuff. Some of it's priority arguments. Some of it's not priority arguments, but it all has a point. So much appreciated to be on the panel.
Okay, guys, we're just glad, brothers. We're gonna go in on this particular topic real quick. Actually, it's gonna be suggested. I was gonna do is the black church making black men simps? That somebody requested that, but we'll probably do that another day. Here's what I want to know, because basically, I've done some shows, and we'll start, with Clutch. I've done a lot of shows, a lot of guys. Oh, Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, I asked you on Facebook if you wanted to get on the show because you have some, you spent 10 years in the Philippines. I've lived in Poland for 2.5 years, and I've traveled throughout Europe. I've traveled to only one African country twice, so I really haven't had a lot of experience. But I have lived out of the United States. I kind of know how that works. You do have brothers like Taylor Made Dreams. He's living. He bought a house or condo in Dominican Republic. And there's so many black men who have the desire to travel or even live abroad. Now, Edward Anderson makes the case earlier today at my live stream. He makes a point, and some could say it's a good point, that, hey, you black men have not set yourself up here in America and fight for your rights here. What makes you think that you're going to be able to do so someplace else? Black Men Taking Our Community Back has also said something very similar. So what I want to do is I want to start with Clutch. And Dr. Mike, put your email here now. I'll send it to you. Clutch, now, do you think also, I know that you live obviously in the United States. Do you think that black men deciding to say I'm going to someplace else and start over again in another country, is that a good idea for black men?
Well, it depends on the perspective of why you're doing it. Now, you have some men who are basically weak, who are basically powerless, and who basically have no economic skills in the United States, not even blue collar skill. Well, I won't say blue collar versus white collar, but just no skills in general, who are just tired and fed up of a certain female fuckery that they've dealt with and a certain supremacy that they tend to cling on to. And as a result, a lot of them think that traveling to a certain country, particularly a country where people look like them, will be the end all of solving their problems. And if you're traveling from that perspective, if you're traveling just to say, well, I just want to be around more people who look like me because of less racism and blah, 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 even though you yourself may not bring anything personally to the table to that country, then I would agree with your Edward Andersons and your Mr. Research. Now, where I disagree with is for black men who can bring something to the table, or who have brought something to the table, who have brought something tangible, whether it's in the form of physical tangibilities like a blue collar skill, or capital tangibilities like a white collar skill, or an IT based skill, a STEM skill, and they still face issues, whether it's from their women, whether it's from racist externally. Those are the people who I would strongly suggest to leave this country and set up shop somewhere else, particularly in places where, quite frankly, it is less anti-black, whether it's in a country in Africa, or whether it's another country where you can easily assimilate to, and where blacks aren't considered the bottom of the barrel. So it depends on what you have in store and what you plan to do when you leave this country.
Okay, good answer. Very well thought out. Let's go to I believe the next person is that Mr. Research. Mr. Research. Mr. Research, what's your thoughts about this? I know you've traveled extensively, also in many different parts of the world. So,
all right, so I'm gonna be the voice of doom. I'm gonna let everybody else do the positive part. My thing is this: you put me anywhere on God's green earth, I will triple my worth. If you don't have that type of mentality, don't go overseas thinking that you're going to find victory, because the reality is you're dealing with certain barriers, and one of them is cultural. There's sometimes when you're speaking to a person, you have to address her brother before you speak to her. You got to address her cousin because that's the man code in some of these countries. And what people don't understand is, man, saying go somewhere is one thing. But if you can't go to Michigan next weekend, then you probably don't want to go overseas trying to do something, fabulous and famous. But Go do it just for the sake of trying, because you might hit a lick or you might come with a different experience. Nevertheless, you got to do something to where you can stop focusing on these chicks who you grew up with, these American females. You got to do something because the complaining just shows that you're not dominant. I'll share the mic on that.
Okay, now you know what? This is getting interesting. And shout out to Edward Anderson for this particular topic. Ghana Dan, you know you definitely because you definitely if you want to jump in, I'll send you a link, man. That's my big bro. He's lived in Ghana for some time, has a big business that he's working on right there in Ghana. Big time, brother. Let's go to Edward Anderson, man, and shout out to you because you were the one that kind of catapulted this conversation. What is your theory about this, brother?
Yeah, much appreciated for the shout out. But my theory is I agree pretty much completely, 95% with Clutch and Mr. Research. Here's the thing what you got to understand. When I made the comment in the chat talking about as a group, we don't have our stuff together in the United States, what that really means is, only 5% of Black African Americans have a passport. And then if you get rid of like the military, because Black people 17% of the military. If you get rid of like non-African American Blacks, like continental Africans, Afro Latinos, whatever, Caribbeans that are going to have a passport because they have family out there because they're first generation or immigrants themselves, that number probably goes down to an estimate of 3.2%. I've actually estimated that, and this is an estimate, it's a rough estimate, that you could argue non-military, non-immigrant, or first-generation African-American males, adults number in 650,000 actually have a passport. Now that's out of what, around 10 million if Black people have a passport. So that's why I said, and that's going to Clutch. That's why I said what I said about most Black people are just not, Black men are not prepared for it. Then you got to look at the ones that do have passports, the mentality that they're going to have going, which is what Clutch just said. Most of them have that mentality. So unless you have a mentality of you're going to build a house from scratch or something like that, or you're going to bring in, like you just said, capital or a skill, which a lot of Black men don't have. A lot of Black men don't even think about it. They're either thinking about women or they're thinking about escapism. Then it's a conversation that needs to be had. With that said, I completely agree. All Black men should actually travel. Traveling and expatriating are two completely different things because they have a different type of commitment.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of Black folks don't understand. So we have this argument where you have a lot of anti-traveling Black men. They want to make it like we talk about all Black men need to expatriate, which I don't even necessarily agree with that. Now, I will say this, and then I'll share the mic. I do agree that people like the late Charles Tyler, like Taylor Made Dreams, those even Dinah's did an interview with a Black guy that was by building a house, building a whole kind of complex in Ghana. Those men need to be supported by Black men that are here, because one thing with Charles Tyler was it was a business called Rio Rentals for Less, is of a Black man that's been down there for 30 years.
Mr. John.
Yeah, Mr. John. Those people need to be supported by Black men in the United States because that's our network. And it's never been easier to do that. Now you got Super Chat or you got PayPal. We need to support those people because I would love when I go to Dominican Republic, I got Taylor Made Dreams, and I forget the other guy's name that has the barbecue thing.
Big D.
Yeah, so they know who I am. That's us expanding our network. So that way when we do go, we have some stuff, we got some intel on the ground. I mean, Indians do this all the time. They got people everywhere. Lord knows they got people everywhere. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it, my initial thoughts.
Okay. And so we have Mike, the PI guy, and I'm gonna weigh in on it after I get to brothers. And then we're gonna have Ghana Dan, who has been in Ghana for some years, and then so Dr. Mike, thank you for coming on to the show, brother. And hopefully we can get you more involved in a lot of these discussions. Kind of introduce yourself to the people. Let them know who you are. Let them know, your experience and why it's relevant to this conversation.
Okay, O'Shea, I appreciate you having me on, brother, as always. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I go by the name of Dr. Mike. My first ever channel name was Mike the PI Guide. I lived in the Philippines for over 10 years. I studied there as a student. I guess you can consider me an expat. My father was in the military, so we traveled around a lot. So practically the majority of my life was spent living in countries overseas. Like I said, 10 years in the Philippines, couple years in Japan, Kuwait, and also the United Arab Emirates. So I have a lot of experience living in foreign countries. So, in my personal opinion, with what we were talking about, I think one thing that has yet to be talked about in this particular topic is, I mean, we want to encourage brothers to go abroad, but a lot of guys, like you said, they don't have their passports and they don't have a lot of things together. But, a lot of reasons why most men don't travel, I believe, is they have responsibilities. There's things that they can't leave here in the United States, or reasons that hold them here in the United States that keep them from traveling, whether they got kids, child support payments, alimony, or something that they go through during the court systems or whatever it may be that keep them grounded here in the United States. So I kind of feel like that also plays a factor why most black men, in my opinion, don't actually travel as well.
Okay. Let me do this. Man, y'all must have got paid today. Let me just shout out to people that are super chatting. I really appreciate that. Just real quick, brothers. And is Ghana Dan in here? And before he gets there, I'm gonna just weigh in on something real quick because this is a really good conversation tonight. First of all, thank you guys. Like the video. You know how we do over here on the channel. For those of you who are watching the restream, thank you for watching. We do this exclusively for our our black male content. Julian Brown, thank you. Jermaine Flowers, thank you so much. Howard Cooper, great topic. I'll say just arrived from Korea today myself, and he's in Hawaii. Diana Powell's out of KC, $25. The Korean writing dude, I don't even know your name, man. $2. Thank you so much. Marcus, the realist. Much respect, fellas. Keep up the work. J.L. Edwards, let's get it. All-star panel. Let me just weigh in on this real quick, okay? And you guys, I think like I'm the only person right now on the panel that's actually living like in another country. Now, I may not have been as many countries as you guys have been, some of you, but I'm living here now. What I can say is, okay, when we talk about the best idea for black men, what I can say is this: living in other countries is less, at least for me. When I go to Africa, it is very, less stressful. Okay, I'm just like totally at ease. When I was in Uganda, I'm totally at ease. The quality of life in certain aspects is less stressful. Even in Poland, the quality of life is better for the price. You make a great point, Edward, when you say it's different from vacation, like Taylor Made Dream says, staycation to vacation. The thing that, and Mr. Richards talks about this also extensively in his remarks, is when you move to another place, can you speak this language, right? Even if you're a person that's an online entrepreneur, and there's something called Nomads List. And guys, for those of you who have online business, check out this Nomads List thing. And shout out to Hustlers Kung Fu. He had Nick Nimmin on his show, and I'm a big fan of Nick Nimmin. He has over almost 200,000 YouTube subscribers. He's currently in Chao Ming. I don't know if I'm saying it right, Thailand. And this is like a great hub for online entrepreneurs. They're making a lot of money out there. People do it in Romania and they have online business, stuff like this. The problem that I have when you come to another place and you come to the United States is, even if you do make a lot of money in a place and you're able to support yourself, it's very different is can you fit into that society? And a lot of times, if you don't have other Americans where you're at and stuff like that, or other people who look like you, like I get a lot of people pointing at me here in Poland. I get, a lot of stares. There's a lot of things that I can't get done in certain aspects because I can't speak Polish and they can't speak English. So, a lot of those things you have to kind of, overcome, you know what I mean? And it can be very difficult. And again, this is a commitment, this is a commitment when you come here. You take the good with the bad. And, little things like getting certain things from certain electronic stores, Chao Mai, right? That's what I'm talking about. All of these things, there's more things than money or even women, because you know you can make a lot of money someplace, and you can still be very lonely. You could still be, and even if you go to certain places, even in Africa. Well, just because they speak English, you speak English doesn't mean you speak their home language, which could be something else, and you're still somewhat of an outsider. So that's another thing that we'll talk about. I just want to kind of point that out real quick. Let me kind of get back to Clutch, okay? And before I do that, I want to shout out some people in the super chat. Brian Jenkins, he says, "What's good, fam? Appreciate what you do. Can't stay getting the workout in, but we'll catch the replay. Have a good show." That's my boy out of Alabama. Thank you so much. King Love, I just got my passport. Thank you, player. Julian Brown, $5. All right, so let's talk about this, Clutch. A lot of brothers, some brothers, right? They're saying one of the reasons that I want to move, not maybe the only reason, but there's so much feminism, there's child support, there's things like that in the United States. Okay, so one of the reasons why I might want to move to Brazil or I might want to adopt another culture is because I get treated better. So what do you think that it's a good idea for brothers to move to another place in order to find love?
Not solely love. Now, a lot of people who complain about feminism and that sort of thing, well, we gotta split it in sort of two camps. The white guys who complain about feminism and how women are rude, I'm gonna be clear and quite frank. That's your fault. You guys allowed that shit to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these guys who are saying, well, man, just go to Eastern Europe or go to Asia and have your own little sex playground, which is what it really is just a sex playground for a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys are just trying to escape the problem they created. But that leaves us when it comes to black men wondering, should we do the same? Maybe not the exact same countries, but maybe we should go to like in Africa or Brazil, Dominican Republic to escape feminism and that sort of thing. Well, here's the thing. A lot of guys who tend to say that, as I said, it goes back to having control of your own life once again. If you don't have control of your own life here in the United States, where even though you may feel discriminated or demonized or ostracized, it is in your favor culturally. You do have a sway in how things go. And there are plenty of black men who are involved in the black community, who have control, if not over the women, then at the very least control over their own life. Those guys, I would say, if you have control of your own life, if you know how to make your own money, then by all means, set up shop in a different country if you're looking for companionship, for love, or a woman who's more feminine and cooperative. But for a lot of you guys out here who complain about women and say women aren't this or sworn enemy that, all this other kind of stuff, and you really have no control of your life, you're not, at best, you're going to do just as well overseas, even in a so-called black country. At worst, you're going to get swept up by their culture and their little nuances and their tricks that they have up their sleeves.
Okay, this is strong argument. Okay, Mr. Richard, before we get to you, let me just get to Ghana Dan real quick. Ghana Dan, thank you for joining the program. Just let everybody know, who you are, your experience with living overseas and stuff like that.
Hello, everyone, and on the panel and everyone that's listening. Yeah, I'm from Alabama. Grew up in the South. Successful family, suburbs. Went in the military for some dumbass reason, but it whet my appetite for traveling. And I started building associations internationally back in '96. And I started traveling and I started seeing the world outside the U.S. Everyone on the panel is speaking from a position of truth. You got to have your shit together. You better have a purpose and a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I wouldn't go overseas for love because that's some Hollywood shit that Westerners fall for. It's business in other countries. You got to have your shit together. Women ain't looking to fall in love with a broke man overseas. So I might well keep that shit. You might well keep that shit over here in the West. Maybe somebody will struggle hustle with you over here. But it's a privilege to travel and do the small things that I'm doing. Everyone on the panel is kicking ass. Everything. I don't have any disagreement with anything any person saying. You got to have a plan. It takes time. It takes patience. I jumped in the water, but I had expertise when it comes to business. One thing I did get out the military, I learned how to survive in all climates, from training in the Arctic Circle and swamps and desert. I figured I can survive anywhere. Like Mr. Research said, you got to have that kind of dominant mentality wherever you go on this planet. You got to be able to triple your worth. So, I'm enjoying the discussion, and I'm open for questions.
Okay. Let me just shout out to Gunna Dan. King Nick, thank you for the super chat at $10. Sup, fellas? Great content, and definitely get your passport, brothers. Coming from someone who's backpacked through Africa, South America, Asia, Oceania, and Eastern Europe, Balkans, bro, we got to do a show because you damn nigga, where haven't you been? Shit. Okay, so let Mr. Research going on this, because Mr. Research, he has an actual event. So let me let him talk about his event that's going to be going on in a few weeks. So, Mr. Research, go ahead. Let's tell us about it. Thank you, Ryan Witherspoon, for the $2 super chat. Mr. Research, tell the brothers about the event that you have that you've been promoting.
All right. We're going to be doing a Brazilian day party. So what happens, this is around the time that Brazil celebrates its festivals. And so you fly down to San Francisco and you get part of the day party. The thing is with cultural events, they do have older people there. They do have young kids there. It is a cultural event. It is not a bust a nut party. It is not a party where you're only going to see super top of the line Brazilian chicks. You're going to see Brazilian chicks in their natural everyday look. But that's your opportunity to start talking some Portuguese or bootleg Spanish and try to conversate with these females that you say you want. Because if you're online, and this goes to Clutch's point, if you're online and you still, the black woman won't change. She won't let me bust a nut when I want to, then you're really going to have a problem with these cultural women who look at that behavior as backwards. You cannot go to these cultural women talking about, I want to do 50-50. They don't understand that. You can't go to these cultural women talking about, why don't you work with a brother? They don't understand that. And even if they understand it, their family members are going to look at you. Oh, this is what they mean by no good black person. He wants Lashana to help him in life. See, this is the discussions they're going to be having, because they're going to be looking at it like, no, we don't want you to marry him. No, that must be what the typical black person is. That's why we don't marry black people. They're always poor. They have excuses. But if you're able to come at them, hey, I not only do what I need to do, I got a little situation online. I've been in business online for at least 2-3 years. I make my own money, or I have a certification or degree in this. I work in that field already. Blah 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 blah. Not that you got to be perfect, but you got to understand. Sex is easy to get from foreigners, but just like I think Ghana said, you got two agendas. Some people are trying to sex you because they're trying to get a green card, and some people are trying to sex you because they think you're really interested in them. Nobody is doing it just to bust a nut. So you go to some of these places, and somebody said in the chat room, you bring your Western behavior with you. You might get a Filipino who might cut your balls off, which has happened. You might get a Russian girl who clubs you over side of the head, or has one of her Slavic relatives do it. You constantly hear brothers come up dead because you cannot bring that slack jaw mentality overseas every time. Just because you heard 200 dudes get away with it don't mean you gonna go necessarily get away with it. So I wrap it all up to say this. Yes, we're having a day party, and it's a cultural event. But this is one of the reasons why I tell people and why I said the SYSBM. Instead of saying scraggle daggle and I don't like black women, save that oxygen and use that passion to buy a $200 plane ticket and go out there to where Solo TV is and say, hey, I want to holler at Snow Bunny Solo TV. Teach me. But you're not doing that. You're sitting at home on the couch complaining with video number 489. This is why black men don't like black women. Get a plane ticket.
You opened up the door, man. Hey, man, I might not let you go play no basketball, man, because you ain't gonna be coming in here wrecking the goddamn show like that. Open up all these cans of worms, man, because these are things we need to talk about. And to be fair, Mr. Research, you're probably the first, and I've always been like this, you know, I never believed it. 50-50 niggas shit. Ghana Dan definitely don't believe in it. But okay, let's talk about that, right? Because we have so many brothers who are looking to do 50-50, and you're talking about overseas, and I know this for a fact, definitely not in Africa. Women ain't looking to do no 50-50, especially with no goddamn foreign man. And I'm sure Ghana Dan gonna tell you that, and Dr. Mike. But just really quickly, because we got other people on the thing, but I want to ask you a second question, Mr. Research. You know, can these 50-50 dudes make it overseas? You know, if I mean that meant because things you know, living can be a lot cheaper in certain other places. So I mean, can a guy with that mentality make it over there?
He got to have a hell of a penis. He got to have a hell of a conversation. He got to do what Italians do, because a lot of Italians are broke, but they constantly are adorning chicks with conversation. The flip side of that, though, it wears out, because you got to understand, in some countries, especially being a foreigner, you'll come up hurt or missing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you really got to understand that part of the game, man. It's you can do your 50-50, but I think everybody on the panel will tell you got to be a master of some type of industry. You know, and you and I have talked about this personally. I have with you and the other doctor, I process all of y'all claims, all of y'all paperwork. There's nothing I can't do on the administrative side. So I'm forever going to be employed. In addition to that, I have a hotel service. So if anything ever go left, I got that. In addition to that, you know, I got drilling and coding stuff. So it's like you got to really be a master of your industry, so that way you could put me in St. Louis tomorrow. I'm gonna be all right. You could put me in Michigan tomorrow. I'm gonna be straight. You know, there are times. Matter of fact, I'm gonna wrap up this. There are times where, because you know, I went from place to place, blah blah to blah blah. When I moved back here to California, my cousin said, "Oh, jobs is hard. You ain't gonna be." I said, "Cousin, I have 5 certifications. I doubt if I will get offers before I even get off the plane." And within 5 days flat, I was working at a top hospital, because that's what you got to do. And I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. I'm saying if you're a man, a mature capital MAN, and not a boy pretending to be a man, you have to do these things when you're about to interact with other cultures. And O'Shea, you forgot you forgot the guys who are in these countries. Yeah. If you're not on point, them dudes ain't gonna like you either, and they not gonna want you to be around their women.
That is true. That is true. Look, let me do this real quick. Shout out to my man Odinga Mubutu, my brother out of Haiti by way of New York, and Robert Gilmore. Thank you, brothers, for the $10 super chat. Let me do this because let me go to Edward real quick. Edward, what do you have to say about what research was saying? And we kind of gonna build on that, and I'm gonna just kind of go where however you want to say it, brother.
Okay, no, definitely. The first thing I want to say, is a question to Ghana Dan real quick. Like, did you were you the one that did that video with Dynas talking about building a house in Ghana?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like,
Yeah.
go ahead. All right, so I would recommend anybody go check that video out because that's one of the videos that really got me hooked on Dynas's channel. That was an excellent video, and it's a good example of the possibilities of what you can do overseas if you got your shit together. So I'll talk about that later. But
Well,
to build on,
I'm sorry. Let me shout out to Marlon Mackey out of the UK because just updated with 3 British pounds. And thank you, Ryan Witherspoon, for $10. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
no, definitely. But as far as what Mr. Research said, he's absolutely correct. Like, a lot of times people want to ask this question: should I go overseas? And the best way to determine that for a guy is to ask what their priorities are. Like, what are you looking to get overseas? If pussy is not at least number 3, if it's higher than number 3, then they don't need to be going abroad. As far as staying abroad, it's one thing to have vacation. What do I mean by that? The first reason, if you're looking to expatriate, you should be looking to do that is number 1 for wealth. It's easy if you have capital or you have valuable skills. It's easier to tap wealth if you can get past the cultural stuff and do all that stuff than it is in the United States. Dr. Clark Anderson says wealth is very much calcified in the United States, and although it's more liquid in the United States than it is in other countries, there is more wealth to be gained in other countries, especially developing countries, if you know what you're doing. The second reason should be, and the second reason should be for self-improvement. One of the things, the guy, Dr. Mike, one of the first places I was able to go to for a long period of time was the Philippines. And I was in Makati. Dr. Mike knows I was over there right by Burgo Street, La Vista. So I know you know what I'm talking about with that. And my job was all that. And although the women and all that was great and stuff like that, the point is I got to sit and think about what I wanted to do in my life. I got to really say, what was it like to be overseas? Because originally I was only supposed to be there for 6 weeks. And I got to really see, okay, what is this nomad lifestyle? It's because digital marketing was something that at the time I was looking to get into. What could really be? But actually in the environment and actually in dealing with the people. And the thing about the Philippines is everybody speaks English. So it's a little bit disarming in that way. My point is, you got to be intentional about what you want to do and where you want to go. A lot of times, a lot of black men are looking for this one size fits all escapism thing. And if you're going out there with that mentality, you're not seeing the other dangers, like Mr. Research said, because these motherfuckers can kill you and they never find you. Go look locked up abroad and see how that turns out, even for white folks. But anyway, I completely agree, Mr. Research, and I just, that is what it is.
Okay. No, some good points. Odinga, thank you so much for the super chats. Brazilian women or foreign women always expect men to be in 100% control. When you marry them, you pretty much marry their family also. Shout out to Odinga, man. Odinga, we got to do a show, man, when I get, if not tomorrow, when I get back. It's a heavy load, got to be ready. Shout out to him and his Press View website. It's a very good website there. Let me do this. Let me go to Dr. Mike. All right. And Dr. Mike, now, some of the things that Mr. Research was saying, was it's easy to get sex overseas. Women are not looking for no 50-50 dude. And a lot of black men have bad reputations. He didn't say it in that order, but in certain circumstances, he was saying this. I think that he's 3,000% correct. Can you elaborate on what he's talking about? Maybe if you agree or disagree or just your experience.
Well, I first and foremost, I do agree. I mean, 50-50 is not going to fly in the Philippines or in most parts of Asian countries. You're the foreigner, and they're going to look at you as that man with money. You can't come to the relationship and you can't approach this woman and say, you know what? I got this. This is what I'm going to bring to the relationship. Can you meet me halfway? From a financial standpoint. Now, if you tell her that you're going to take care of the monetary means and you're good to go, and she brings to the relationship, taking care of the household and things of that nature, that's a different story. But if from a monetary standpoint, you're asking her to go work with you on this, chances are you're probably going to get turned away. And I think the biggest point that was made in the last statement was when you marry into the family. That was probably the absolute best thing that I heard and what was said previously. When you go to the Philippines, you got to meet the family. I mean, in one way or another, you can't avoid it. So when you meet the family, it's the mother, the father, a bunch of cousins, relatives, everything. If they live in like the provincial areas, you got to go there, and then you show out, and they're going to want to show you off and things of that nature. So they're really going to show you off like, this is me and my foreigner man, husband, boyfriend, or whatever. So you're going to marry into the family. And chances are, when you marry that girl, you're going to, in one way or another, depending on the type of person that you are, you're going to probably end up supporting that family. It just depends. You know, it could go either way, but for the most part, she's going to want to send money to the family. Let's be honest, she's going to want to send your money to the family. So, you know, these are definitely things that you have to take into consideration. And in reference to the Burgo Street, yeah, that's a heavy red light district area in Makati. But Makati is a very like a metropolitan area in the Manila part of the Philippines. So, you know, I'm surprised that you were able to get a lot of thinking done, you know, in that particular area. But
He's thinking about
you know, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a positive thing that you were able to get, you know, to get a lot of thinking done. But you know, from that particular aspect, I mean, you know, you have to come to the table with a whole lot more than you know, than just coming to with a 50-50 mindset. You know, it just doesn't work that way. And I read it in the chat earlier when you were talking, and one of the main things that somebody said in the chat was you can't go overseas and act like a nigga. And that's for lack of a better term, there is no better way to put it. When you come to a foreign country, you have to have a different mentality. You can't act the way that you did when you were in high school, or, you know, when you're around a certain group of people that are your own, because these people are not your own people. This is a whole different group of people, a whole different culture, a whole different background. So you kind of have to adjust yourself and adapt to the area in which you are living in. So saying the N word to somebody that is like a friend of yours, you know, you can't really pop off and just come out, you know, whether it's a friend or not, and say that in front of other people, because then that justifies them saying it as well. Because they really may not know that that's a word that's offensive to you, especially if they hear you say it. So there are certain things to take into account when dealing with different people from different cultures.
No, that's a good point. I want to weigh in. J.L. Edwards says, look in the countries where it's easy to do business and the cost of living is relatively low. Look at the life expectancy. I think it's HDI, Human Development Index, and what is in demand. Shout out to J.L. Edwards for that. Let me just also say this for those people that like want to live overseas. Also, you got to understand, like, you know, depending on where you are overseas. Let's say, for example, I'm in Poland, which is in the European Union. In, you know, in certain parts, like, you know, like maybe Philippines or certain parts of Africa, you know, your money could matter. People are impressed by your American passport. People in Poland or France or Germany or Belgium are not impressed for the most part by you being an American. Maybe every now and then. I mean, if you're black like me, people probably don't even think that you're from America, right? And that is really what the case. A lot of people are going to automatically think that you are from Africa. You know, people are going to have a hard time accepting that you're dating there, especially if it's in Europe. Their white daughter, or I don't know about Asia, but I've heard some stories from Randy Flagg. So also, you know, which is a loser law why in China. I also think that, you know, these things are also very, you know, imperative. And as far as the N-word, you know, there are a lot of things, like if a white person calls you an N-word in America, you probably could, you know, slap him or something, and you may or may not get in trouble because of that. But, you know, overseas, people can pretty much do whatever the fuck they want to do to you. And that's just how it is. And, you know, if you don't, shout out to Julian Brown again for the donation. So you guys kind of got to understand that shit too. You know, with that, you know, certain perspectives that, you know, what rights you had in America when you're in a foreign country. Don't think that your blue passport is going to be getting you out of, you know, bailed out all the goddamn time. Let me talk to Ghana Dan real quick. Ghana Dan, let me ask you this, right? Me and you talked a long time. The Hobo Traveler, I think on his website, he put the cost of what it will cost to have like a wife in other parts of the world, like in Africa. In these regions, you can have a wife for like $400 a month, right? Probably even cheaper than that. I know you know that for a fact, but is it cheaper to have a good looking wife that's more obedient to you in Ghana or girlfriend than in America, do you get better bang for your buck there?
Oh, absolutely. You get better bang for your buck. I think he said $450 a month. That's pretty accurate. Um, and the culture lends towards respect of men. I mean, women are taught not to worry their husbands, as in, don't be nagging, don't be complaining, don't talk too much. Um, I almost damn near had to make my wife talk in Ghana, because y- she's almost seen and not heard, and that's her culture. That's how her father and her mother raised her. And if I have any problems, all I gotta do is go to the parents. So you do have an infrastructure in place. Should you have any issues, um, you there's some correction that can be made. All you gotta do is make a phone call, because they value their name over there. They don't want to they don't want to be seen as they have a daughter who was untrained. You are expected to train your woman. You got to be strong enough to train her. That means you got to have confidence to say, "Hey, I want you to sleep on this side of the bed. I want you to sleep with your ass up. I want you to sleep on your
Please,
right side." I mean,
please elaborate why that's important.
what, as in training the woman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you are exerting dominance and letting her know that you are basically her life source. And as other guests have said on the panel, she is the she is also have to represent herself well in order to help accelerate her family forward too. Um, African women, from my experience, they acquiesce and they are naturally compliant in most countries. I know feminism is creeping over there with that bullshit, but they need to know, they need to feel, they need to know to the bone marrow that you are the man, and you're not afraid to tell them what to do, how to think, how to move. You know, because they understand that they are sponges and you are the water, or you are the light and they are the plant and the soil. And so, because you're passing on your culture onto them, and if you disorganized and you scared to talk to women, and you're not accustomed to um, asserting yourself with a woman in a state, well, you're gonna fail miserably over there. They're gonna run over you. She'll make you instead of you making her.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let me do this. Let me go back to Clutch. All right. So Clutch, let me kind of stick on this hobo traveler's point, right? Let me
Right.
just read this real quick, Clutch, real quick. And guys, I'll post the article here in the description. I read this a long time ago. Pretty much what he says is how much to buy a wife. So 95% of the planet Earth on the planet earns less than $10, 10 USD per day. 10 times 10 times 30 days is 300 US dollars a month. So really, at that rate, that's a good size. I know for a fact you can get you a fine chick in Kampala for like, I know a woman right now that is super bad. She's working, she's making $50 a month, like $8 a day or more. So therefore of paying the marriage. So basically he's like trying to get like even 300 times 1.5, that's 450 a month. Therefore, instead of paying the American, European, Australian, maybe Japanese or Korean wife 450 per week, you would pay 450 per month. That is my opinion on the cost of keeping a wife and what a man needs to pay to uphold his side of marriage on the contract. All right. So Clutch, let's talk about it from this perspective. We all know that the child support system is very corrupt, right? We know that American women, they cost a lot of money. They want a lot of things. They will depreciate in value at some point. What about, overseas? Maybe you're going back and forth. You have a wife, you're giving her a certain salary to keep herself up and stuff like that, or whatever it is. Is this a good idea for those brothers who want to do, what we're talking about right now?
Well, it depends on what you're aiming for. If you're aiming for a stable family, or particularly to create your own family, if you want your children, and that's the only reason why you get a wife, by the way, is to have offspring. In this day and age, unless the two of you run some sort of lucrative business, the only time you should ever consider matrimony is to raise a family. A family, in reality, and for thousands of years, is the union of two corporations, meaning you and the female equivalent. But as far as going overseas, finding a wife, paying to have that wife, if you're having kids and if you don't mind, especially if you don't mind raising that kid in her environment, which I think a lot of these guys who are listening would rather do instead of having them raised in the American environment, then I wouldn't see that as the worst option. Yeah, granted, you're gonna have to go back and forth and travel. If you have that money, then yes, go right on ahead. I am all for that, especially if you're able to get them away from the matriarchal gynocentric society that we have right here. However, let's be honest. A lot of these guys who talk about going to travel, going to foreign countries, they do this in the pursuit of unlimited sexual access. And they think that a lot of these women, if a lot of these dudes will fund their lifestyles and pay their way through life, that they basically have pussy on deck at the time they land and get off the airport. That's not the case. That's rarely, if ever, the case. Because for starters, what do you think she's going to do when you're gone?
Oh boy!
And alongside that, I mean, we can go back to the culture stuff and that sort of thing. Yeah, you're paying her way through life and all that stuff. But I mean, logistically speaking, realistically speaking, if you really, and this goes back to what a lot of the guys want, if you really want unlimited sexual access and to build your harem and have 2 or 3 wives and play king and that sort of thing, you got to build yourself here, not just monetarily, but skill wise and socially wise. And when I say socially, I mean understand her culture inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me go to, I think is Edward, Mr. Research. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Research and we go to Edward. All right, Mr. Research. What do you have to say to the question that I asked? If you're not, I can ask it again.
Rephrase it again.
Okay, so I think what I asked Clutch was about, guys that are saying that, hey, I can get a better deal, for a better looking female. Odinga Mabutu said, what's the age range? Let's say I can get a nice looking woman that's like 19, 20, can have healthy kids. She looks a lot better than an American chick, and I can pay less.
All right.
And so what's your thoughts about this?
Okay, let me again be the voice of doom to the chat room. We're not saying that you cannot go over there, do what you normally do, which is lie to a chick, tell her how much you like her, and get a bunch of sex. We're not saying that. You can go to certain parts of these European countries. These women are used to sleeping with dogs and horses. Of course, you're going to get thirds and fourths after the dog, and you're going to think it's victory. Whoa, Mr. Research, what are you talking about? You didn't know a lot of these countries practice zoophilia? Guess what? You're not having sex with this chick because you're some amazing big dick black man. A lot of these chicks actually have sex with animals, so having sex with a big dick human is an upscale. You didn't do nothing really improvement to get that. And the thing that you're hearing is you're not used to mature men telling you these truths. And then when you go over to some of these places, like I remember the guy that went over to Philco, he was just as depressed. He was there surrounded by Russian chicks as he was back home, which is what all these brothers on the panel are saying. If you not that hell of a dude here, how the hell are you going to be that hell of a dude over there? Just because you busted a nuts a couple of times or you got with some chicks, we don't know what you told those chicks. We don't know if you said, yeah, I'm gonna take you back to the country. Of course they screwing you all outdoors. That doesn't mean nothing you did amazing. Or maybe you was able to afford the hotel suite with the hot tub. Rule number one, let me put on this alpha male wisdom hat, and hopefully you do have this hall of game. I want to be able to be there.
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
that's
of
gonna be
times
crazy.
females guys are not necessarily impressed with you. They want to fuck your house because females are looking for safety. Females are looking for an umbrella to get up out of this rain. And you look like you got the right one. Oh, Mr. Research, I ain't had to do all that. You lucked up because everybody else on the panel is telling you that you mess around and do the wrong thing, you'll come up missing. I was in I think that was Makita, which is close to the zoo out there in Philippines, when they first opened that Hard Rock Cafe. And me and the homies, when they went out there and partied for like a week, we had white boys missing, Asian dudes missing, because dudes was doing and saying the wrong thing. And back at that time, it was the Wild West in the Philippines back then in the 90s. So it's like now it's probably done cooled out. But y'all got to understand, man, don't fall in love with the fantasy part of this. You're going to get that, yes, but it requires some real work. And to answer your question directly, I'll use the women as an example. You have women going overseas, black women having group trips, okay? All they're getting is leftover foreign penis because nobody really wants to interact with a chick that's just here to bust a nut. They trying to get taken back to America. They trying to, you see what I'm saying? So I understand you guys in the chat room want us to lie to you, but it's deeper than that because we talking your children. We talking about land ownership. We talking about buying your mama's house. And if you can't buy the house of the little old lady that stays across the street from your mama, you can't go down out here to these other countries and just get fascinated by busting a nut because you got to get old one day and you got to have some type of security. So I'm just the voice of doom on this one.
Let me add to that, doom, man.
Let me add to that too.
Let me add to that. Guys, you got to also understand, man, that the people who can travel overseas and stay there and actually make it, because really in other countries, like Ghana will tell you, like Ghana Dan will tell you, and Mike will tell you, there's like you miss the credit system like you got in America for the most part. You can finance almost anything. When you go to other places as a foreigner, you cannot get loan. You're out there on your own, right? So if you can figure out how to make it in these places, you're making a lot of money or whatever you're doing in certain countries. You got to understand that there's a class component. Now, what do we mean by this? This is important. When we show up to the Dominican Republic, when we show up to Brazil or to Africa, many of us that are making these trips are middle-class black men or upper middle-class black men, at least the minimum middle class, because most dudes I know that are traveling exclusively like this, they have some kind of money, so you can consider yourself middle class. The chicks that you are fucking are, for the most part, I will probably assume 99% of the time, are not middle class. Okay? So what happens is you take yourself to Uganda, Brazil, in these places, and you get mesmerized by, God damn, these asses are so fat, like I did when I first went to Uganda. It was ass everywhere. I was getting their bitches everywhere I went. It was crazy. I was like on fire. I was hollering at so many bitches. But again, there's a class component. Poor motherfuckers are poor motherfuckers, dog. And you got to understand that when you go to these particular places, that when somebody is poor, you typically don't really deal with them. That's just really what it is. I hate to say that, but a lot of you black men got to understand that if I'm gonna really go somewhere and take somebody else seriously, and that was my fault when I went out there the first time on the trickathon, was I'm not looking for, and you're thinking, oh, she went to college, well, so she must not be. No, she's still poor. So poor people have a certain kind of mindset. And like Ghana Dan talks about, it calls the poverty mindset. And see, this is the thing that you brothers got to understand is that they're very, the people who are middle class or upper middle class that can help you do things in the country. Those people are hard to get a hold of because they're not out there on the motherfucking trick corners like you are trying to buy some poor pussy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And you guys got to understand that this certain type of mindset, you are a different class of person when you go to these places. Many of you have certain skill sets. Many of you have certain connections or something like that. You're a middle class or upwardly mobile black man. And upwardly mobile black men, for the most part, have no business hanging out with women who are not upwardly mobile. You know what I mean? Now, in the case of, if a woman is able for you to develop her or you to trade her or something like that, then that's different. But usually, man, most chicks who are poor, they're like that for a reason. They're going to be like that for a reason because that's all they know. So that's something that I think a lot of brothers need to understand, man. And this is important. When you're an upwardly mobile person, man, you got to be careful who you start fucking and who gets your dick and who gets access to your dick. Like Taylor May was talking about, he met some broad out there in the Dominican Republic, let her into the house, and went to the bathroom. She stole his phone. Boom, she's out. Little things like this, man. Like every time I go to Uganda, and if I let somebody in my house, I gotta go through like put my phone somewhere hella up, hide my money from myself and shit like that. I mean, this is just, and even in America, like Loggy Dog, all of these things, man, I gotta take all these precautions because this bitch is poor. You know what I'm saying? So guys, you gotta understand that, man. When you're an upwardly mobile man, sometimes, man, you don't just run through poor bitches because you can. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense. Go ahead.
Can I also just say this, and I'm gonna be quiet after this.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat room said, "What does Mr. Research know?" I'm an international dude. Before you even knew what the hell international meant, you don't even understand. You wait. Peep game. You don't even understand because somebody else was saying about my voice. Man, stop. You don't even understand the difference between the round face girls and the thin face girls or the triangle face girls. You don't even understand the difference between the mountain girls and the white English trained schooled girls. You don't even understand the difference between the slant eye girls and the round oval eye girls. You don't even understand the difference between the tan girls and the light bright pale girls. So until you get on that level 15, stop telling me what's going on down at level 0.5. You guys really you got to understand, I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm really not. It's just that, like other people on the panel, once you've experienced this, and like somebody else was joking about sleeping with animals. Yes, most of these foreign people sleep with animals like a normality. Guys, too. There are Spanish, Hispanic, Cuban guys who screw cows as a normality. And when you black woman go out there and you don't meet this fine Spanish dude, hey, don't be surprised if he tell you at 12 years old he was screwing a cow. It's not just a sheep. It's not just a chicken. These people do these type of things. And so O'Shea's point is, you went over there and you screwed 13 white chicks. 4 of them used to sleep with dogs, and you just went behind that. So how did you really have victory? I'm gonna be quiet.
All right, let me go to I think it's Ghana. I think if it's not Dr. Mike's turn, I think is it Ghana? Is it Dr. Mike? Is it whose turn is it? Dr. Mike's turn?
Hey, O'Shea, I'll go ahead and all right, bet. The point that was made previously, you can't come to the country and think that you're gonna luck up. Okay, you can't come to the Philippines because it's an Asian country, it's a third world country, and expect that you're gonna luck up and every girl's gonna want to fuck you and sleep with you. Not gonna happen. I know a lot of guys who come here on a consistent basis, spend thousands of dollars on plane tickets and travel accommodations and fall flat on their face. A lot of guys think that they can go to the Philippines and live what we like to call the 2-week millionaire lifestyle. They trick on all these girls, have all the time, all the fun that they want to, and think that that's what life is all about, which I think Clutch was talking about guys just coming to Asia and fucking around. That's pretty much why most guys come. I'm gonna be honest, that's not really a secret. But a lot of guys don't luck up that way. It's sad, but it's true. A lot of guys don't come here and have that success. They want to encourage you guys to come out here because they see other people doing it and they see the kind of girls that they get, and they automatically think if they can get that girl, then why can't I? Based off of the way that I look and, you know, based off of physical features or whatever it may be. But if you don't have the game and you're not coming to the table with something, you will be overlooked because these women have options. And to your point, O'Shea, and this will be my last point, they're poor or their middle class is not the same as our middle class. All right. The middle class in the United States is way different than the middle class in the Philippines. Like you said, middle class is still poor. Their poor is extremely poor. And in the chat, I also read that our poor is probably the best kind of poor. And I do agree with that. That means that being Section 8 and like lower income housing in the United States. That kind of poor is like fucking luxury in comparison to the poor that I've seen in the Philippines, man. It could get pretty bad out there. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
You bring up a good point. So let me add to that, right? Guys, like when I'm in Poland, right, their middle class is definitely different than American middle class. But here's the thing: once you get and you understand what the currency is, you understand what determines the middle class. These people are, by all means, are going to have some form of formal education, some form of job skill, some form of part in the economy. That's any place where the middle class is at. There's no middle class motherfucker who's a bum. The women that most of you guys when you go out there and you sleep with in these places, they're not a part of the middle class in their own country. A lot of these chicks, man, are selling pussy for a fucking reason because probably number one, they don't want to work and they can get more money selling pussy, or they can get more money, get money from dudes. So again, your values are gonna match up regardless of what the economical base is. Whatever it took you to becoming an upwardly mobile black man is probably going to be some of the certain values that took their family to becoming upwardly mobile or middle class in those countries. So wherever you're at, the values are going to match up, man. And that's the most important part. So like I said, fucking on, lots of chicks and shit like that, just because you can, you're gonna end up with a bunch of bitches hitting you up, trying to get money from you all the time. And that's another story. But let me do them. Let me go to Edward. Was it your turn, Edward?
Yeah.
Or was it Ghana Dan? Okay, let me go to Ghana Dan and then back to Clutch. Go ahead.
All right. So one of the things that we're talking about a lot of times when it comes to this is taking an internal audit. You have to be true. You got to be honest with yourself when it comes to who you are and where you match up as a man, whether it's in the United States or outside. One of the things that black men tend to do at the average is we tend to want to say, okay, I'm getting buns though, so because I'm getting buns, that means I'm not building nothing. It don't matter because the females have validated me. And there's a saying that I always say, and I'm gonna say it even more, and it's called "Stop looking for your manhood in a woman's womb." This is why, quite frankly, most men don't want to hear shit when it comes to going overseas unless it has something to do with a female. If I say, okay, let's go overseas to do this fact-finding mission when it comes to business or business deal, exporting, Alibaba, whatever, or even what Ghana Dan has been doing, most dudes are going to be, you ain't say nothing about the women, and they'll be like, all right, I'm good. They won't make the investment because they don't see it as worth it. And one thing that you said that you've been talking about, O'Shea, in that last statement is a lot of what you said had nothing to do with a woman validating you or you looking at a woman's value based on her giving you pussy or your ease of getting pussy from a woman. It's what is that woman worth outside of her womb? Most black men have never even fucking thought of that. They can't even conceptualize that. In fact, most black men will get angry with you if you try to talk in that term. And that just happened to multiple of us in the manosphere. They cannot see women outside of how women knight them into manhood. And this is a big reason why a lot of dudes either they're not upwardly mobile, or quite frankly, they don't have the rites of passage necessary to define their manhood outside of what a female does.
Okay.
So my only point with that is this: you got to be honest about who you are and where you are in order to decide whether you want to go overseas. And if you're where you need to be, then go ahead, network. If you're not, don't try it. And as far as the audit thing with the woman, as far as the women, as far as their value, yeah, you can get a wife at a better value. But the question is, if you're thinking about that, then chances are you already have the answers that you need in order to go overseas anyway.
Okay, well, great point. I'm gonna go to Ghana and we're gonna go to Xanthos Clutch. I want to just shout out two brothers, man. Harry Mingo. This is his 50. Listen, he gave 250 in the first show I did today, another 50. And my brother here, Evan Moore, in Japan right now, watching on my lunch break in the Japanese ethno state, $50, 5,000. I think is that yen.
Yeah, it's yen.
Yeah, okay. So I've never been to Japan. So we have brothers, man, that watch this show from all over the place. Brother was in London that dropped some UK dropped some money. Thank you, brothers, man. I love you guys so much. But let me go to Ghana Dan real quick. I mean, wait. No, was it Ghana Dan? Ghana, did you already talk already, or was it Clutch?
Yeah. I'm after. I was after Edward.
Okay, so yeah, what's your take on this, bro?
I mean, kick-ass panel, a lot of wisdom. Hopefully, those in the chat soaking this up. For those who haven't traveled or who are new to the Negro Manosphere content, when I went to Ghana, I went there tricking. I didn't have a plan, but I found my wife. When I started wising up and started seeing Asians coming in by the plane loads into Africa, grandmothers, with little kids and whole families coming, they bringing their yellow asses all the way to Africa. I started waking up and I started looking for families, and my present wife, strong family, highly educated father, involved in the politics for many years in Ghana, and her best friend was married because the man passed away. Her best friend was married to the Minister of Health for Ghana, and they was doing catering events, and she been rubbing elbows with presidents and stuff. So now, she's my wife, and I've been nurturing that relationship for 5 years strong. And now I'm building relationships with some of those on the lower level. Brothers, you gotta have a strategy with your dick. I highly suggest, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a purpose, you don't have a mission statement, put your dick in a jar until you get one. There's too many audio books for free, too many black men in the Negro Manosphere. You got the forum. It's too much knowledge. And, out here wasting your time and your precious energy chasing bitches, and you don't even have a long-term plan. Because, again, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And, I'll be sharing more of my experience in the coming days, because I almost fucked my life up chasing all these bitches. Because I used to define my manhood by running up in wombs. And as I've told O'Shea and I've mentioned on a few other shows, when you see other people going to Africa, the breadbasket of the world, 75% of the resources come out of Africa. Everything under the sun around us, in our rooms, wherever we at this present moment, Africa has its fingerprint on it. And I'm seeing Asians move to Africa, and black people won't even consider adding that to their portfolio. Not everybody can do it right now, but if you can put Africa into your Africa or Central America or South America, go to resource rich places. The places they call third world are actually the richest places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But the corruption and stuff is fucking up the game. You get in, if you got to establish yourself in the States, fine, do that. But add some of these countries into your portfolio, because I'm building houses I'm building 1,200 square foot houses that's only going to take $15,000. But I'm doing, but the method I'm using is, geothermal. I won't have geothermal emissions, and it'll stay cool in the summer and all that. So expand your brain, continue to network, continue to build, study. There's no excuse anymore to be dumb. There's too many fucking audio books. you can be listening to throughout your day. Put some energy into investing in yourself instead of all your energy is to shine on some hoes and whatever it is you want to do. So everybody on this panel is kicking ass, and I hope everybody in the chat room and whoever listens to the show afterward is soaking it up, because I'm learning, and I'm well traveled, and I thank y'all for your time.
Okay. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to start with Clutch because David Carroll made a pretty good video about why the black man will not control his economy. So I guess the question I want to ask to the panel is, at some point, if these black men have a hard time controlling their economy here, how can they do it someplace else? And I think that's the question we need to ask. Also, one thing that I'm seeing in a lot of these third world countries, especially in a lot of African countries, we see a lot. I mean, I don't know about, but I'm talking about for those people interested in Africa. I saw a lot of women coming out of single mother-led homes, which might not be the main reason why a brother might want to travel, but it could be a reason why a brother may travel. So, I think a lot of brothers are trying to get away from single motherhood. I know that's a lot. That's happened a lot in Africa. I also talk about corruption, right? Because a lot of these places, there's a lack of transparency. So if you want to do business in, Liberia, Brazil, there's a lot of issues that will need to be overcome. I'm not talking about Asia. I think Asia is a lot more transparent. China, Japan, stuff like that. But other places, there could be some issues there. So I guess those are things that I want to mention today on the particular panel. Let me go to Clutch. Okay, so Clutch, black men have a hard time controlling their economy in the United States. How could they do this someplace else if they have a hard time doing it here?
Well, the saying goes, every great race has a home base. You have the Asias having their Asian countries,
Okay.
Jews having Israel, and so forth, so on and so forth. However, there have been times in which individuals who have not had a home base were able to control the economies of other individuals.
Okay.
Now, I will say this, it is harder to do that than it is for a group of people to have a home base. And at that point, I will agree with David Carroll. I would say that it's a lot easier if black men got their stuff together here, and then you would have some black men who would stay in the United States or set up shop in another African country, and then other black men who are more adventurous, more entrepreneurial, so forth, go out to these other economies, build, leverage some money, offer some sort of asset or some sort of capital, some sort of resource in exchange for property or monetary gains or even political power. So on the side of what David Carroll is saying about black men not being able to control their economies here, it is a pivotal point. But what will I say? I'll add on to this. More than the economy, it's about the image. There's a reason why certain people, even certain people of other poor countries, can go to certain countries. Say, for instance, Latinos. If Latinos all of a sudden decided to set up and shop in places like, say, China or Eastern Europe or something like that, you won't have a lot of resistance besides the cultural resistance of and not everyone faces that. Even white people face some sort of cultural resistance. But when it comes to blacks setting up shop in other countries, what we're facing is not only an economic issue of not being able to control our economies, but also our culture. And I'm not trying to cheap plug myself, but this is something I heavily emphasize, is the one, control your own image, and two, make sure you don't give a negative image to the world. And more than the economy, I think this is where we're failing as blacks in America today. We're buying and we're giving a lot of people, a lot of non-blacks, especially those in America, reasons to hate us, basically because we indulge and embrace the negative stereotypical image. I'm not saying we all should act like Carlton Banks or sound like myself and talk all white and stuff, but I think that before our economy, well, before gaining our economy or building a black economy here, we need to improve our image.
This is a good point. Okay. Let me do this, guys. Get the likes up on the video. We have 232 people watching. Let's go to okay. We have Sub-Zero 3639 on the panel. Good to see. Let's let him talk now. Sub-Zero, welcome to the show, brother. I know you just got on. I guess what I want to ask you is this. Like I said, black men, this is a show for brothers wanting to move out of the States. And also I want to talk about, I know I should ask this first, but why are black men why are black men thinking about leaving the United States? Why is this even a question? Well, we'll talk about that on the next go round. But Sub-Zero, in your opinion, if black men are having a hard time, running the economy here, how is it that, how can they go someplace else and do that?
Actually, if you have a mindset, it's just my opinion, if you have a mindset of looking to go to a foreign country to actually build economically, then you probably have the wherewithal or stick-to-itness to be successful in America in some shape, form, or capacity. It may not be on the scale of our white counterparts, but we can, most black people can get a mortgage on a house for $70,000 or, and do some little small something to get something. If you're disciplined, if you lack the discipline to, get a job and live on, let's say 75, 80% of your income and just say over 2 years and give yourself a 2-3 year plan and say, hey, I'm going to go to, Ethiopia or Uganda after I, amass, 15, 20,000. Yeah, that's on a low income job. If you can't do that, then you probably need to stay your ass in America. But if you can, you're disciplined and you're willing to give it all you have. One thing I've noticed is when I go to foreign countries, I don't know, when I run into Americans, like I ran into some brothers from DC when I was in Ethiopia. And a lot of times in America, when we run into black men from up north or California, they think, okay, these niggas from Alabama, they stupid, some of that shit, right? But I didn't get that. These brothers were very welcoming, full of hospitality. And I find when people leave, when African Americans leave America, a lot of those, messed up, crazy ideas get left, and we actually band together. Like in Brazil, you saw that with Charles Tyler. A lot of brothers from all over the world were coming together with him and doing a lot of good things. So I was in the Dominican Republic. I've been there about 10 times, and I know we were talking about doing a kiosk in the mall over there, selling purses, right? And because they're a lot more lenient on the knockoffs and stuff, right? So we went to the mall, and it's cheap. You can get a kiosk. And I had a brother from New York that was Dominican, but he was from New York. And he walked us through the mall and took us into the booking, the main part is called Mega Central, the mall, right? And he helped us out. He called every once in a while. So, once you're willing to step out there on faith and do certain things, it says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So, when the pupil is ready. So, you got to first step out there first and show that you are willing to do something. And then resources will kind of gravitate towards you when you're ready.
Okay. Let me ask the same question to, I think whose turn is it? Is it researcher's turn? Okay, let's go to research, and then we'll go to Ghana, Edward, and then we'll go to Dr. Mike, and then we'll go to Ghana Dan. Go ahead, research.
Go ahead and react what you said.
Okay, so the point is, okay, when you look at the African American economy, right? Like when you look at black men, we don't even own our own media, right? We don't even have, outside of a few websites that we have, we don't have any TV shows. We don't have anything that we run and operate here in America. So I guess what somebody may say, what makes you think that we're going to be able to do this someplace else?
I really doubt the African American could do it because, like I said, I'm gonna be brutal when you come to me. Most dudes is still worshiping that thing that bleeds every month. They think the thing that bleeds every month is their God. And I remember back in the day, man, I had this one homeboy who was about 6'6". He looked like Alonzo Mourning, and took him to an orgy. Dude was so insecure he couldn't whip his dick out and start fucking. These are the type of people that I talk about. Dudes who talk about sex constantly, but they're not putting themselves in positions to make those things happen. And when we start talking about economy, let me answer that by addressing the chat room at the same time. No, we are not simping. What we are talking about is next level. It's that biblical Boaz conversation that you're not used to, because you're listening to these dudes who haven't achieved nothing in life, still want to be pimps, still want to dress like they 15 years old. Those are the dudes you think have game. Game is when you conquer your situation. You done bought you a piece of land. You get this chick to manage that, speak a little Spanish on the side so she could probably do an online business too. And you go out and create more land for your son, your daughter, not even for you. And this is why this African-American community, answering your question the long way around, this is why this African-American community has so many issues. Our conversation is out of bounds and it stops at busting a nut. Look at the females. Do you really see females retiring well? Nah, you see them have money. Yeah, you see them have some jobs. But why are they always begging their daughters to still be their best friend? Because they have nothing else going on. Why are they sitting up there trying to beg they old girlfriends to take a trip? And the old girlfriend's like, nah, I'm married. Me and my husband chill. I ain't got time to live that life no more. I'm in my garden trying to grow my sprouts. A lot of us on this chat and on this phone are going to get old. And what we need to understand is you better have some things in place when busting a nut no longer becomes an option. Because, and that's the economy question. You got to put yourself in those type of situations because it's going to come. And like everybody else you see older right now, they dreaming of wasted time that they had chasing a nut.
Okay, no, I definitely agree with that. Let me get to, I think, Edward and then Dr. Mike, and then we'll go to Gonadan. Go ahead.
Okay, as far as what David Carroll said, I mean, with David Carroll, you always got to unpack that. That's a two-pronged question. Okay. If he's talking about black men as a group, then yeah, I would tend to agree with that. But what I would say too is, I would say that black men need to make a habit of actually traveling or leaving the country, even if it's on a trip, as a rite of passage. And I say that because if you leave, number one, it's a process getting a passport. It's easy, but it's still a process getting them shots, all of that. Number one. Number two, when you go overseas, it gives you a new perspective and fresh eyes, even when it comes to looking back at the United States. So if I were to ask, how can I get black men, like all of the points that Mr. Research talked about and Clutch has been talking about and everybody's been talking about, how can you really get black men to subconsciously and emotionally buy into thinking about like black economy and black male economics and the black manosphere in the way they need to be? Getting their ass on a plane and putting them into a place where they don't have all that stuff readily available to them would be a very quick way to get black men thinking, oh, vagina isn't the most important thing in the world. There's other things when it comes to power. Because a lot of times we're put in a comatose state or a self-induced comatose state because everything is like the water we're like the water we swim in. So when a lot of immigrants come over here and they're able to take advantage of certain things because they see it in a different way, they don't have the same cultural like issues as baked in the cake of growing up in America. Going overseas will have you kind of come back and then see the United States in a different way to say, okay, I want to go back. How do I do this? Now, if you built that up as a group, then again, you can look at the economy. Because let's be clear, most black men as a group are not looking at black economics. They don't know what that is. Or they'll say things like, I'm American. What are you talking about, black economics? Now, going back now, as far as what Carol said individually, Well, that's a case by case basis. So and there are a certain type of elite type black men. Mike Vincent, shout out to him, calls them technocrats. I will put everybody on this panel is like a part of that group, which are black people that have skills, they are productive, they're trying to do something more with themselves, they are upperly mobile. Well, if they pull together as a group, then I would argue they do have an economy or a network that they can fit into that will allow them to travel. So it just depends on what type of black man we're talking about. Because Mike, correct me, what's the population of Haiti? Isn't it like 10 million?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at the top 10% or the top 10% of any population, you consider them their elite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the top 10% of black men, like 15% of black men make at least $15,000 or more per year. We're talking about 15%. Then you look at 3% make like more than 100,000. So if you look at in that perspective, then we have the stuff there. We just don't organize it in an economy. And that goes back to the video you talked about black men being autonomous and stuff like that. And that's amongst the men. That's not even talking about adding the women. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So that's
that's very, very, very important. That's very important. That is very important. So let me go to Dr. Mike and let Dr. Mike weigh in, and then we'll go into Ghana Dan. So Dr. Mike, go ahead and drop some knowledge on them. Did you need me to re-ask the question again, or did you?
I would appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what they're saying is, okay, so I know like in the Philippines, and go ahead and weigh in on this. The Philippines is very unique in the fact that you can't own, okay, let's say, for example, if I decide I want to go to Uganda, which people know I'm like, I have this big love-hate relationship with Uganda, right? Like we really, really love it. I really, really hate it at the same time. But if I start a business in Uganda, I know I have 100% control of that business. But it's different in the Philippines. Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay, let's be honest. Fresh out the gate, foreigners can't own properties in the Philippines. Foreigners can't own businesses in the Philippines. I'll use myself as an example. I used to be an owner of a retail sales shop in the Philippines. It was local products like makeups and stuff like that. I put the business in my girlfriend's name, but I ended up running the business myself personally. In order for me to take care of bank transactions and things like sign documents on her behalf, I went down to the notary office. She signed over basically all the rights, or gave me permission, in air quotes, to take care of business transactions for a day-to-day basis. So all I had to do was show that I had this notary, that she gives me permission to do XYZ for the business. And that was never a problem. So I was always hands-on. I was always in charge of the business. That was how I did business there. But of course, it's going to be very difficult to find people to trust and to try to interact and get businesses started, or to be able to trust people with your ideas over in the Philippines. I agree 100%. I've seen a lot of people get screwed over trying to do business with local partners in the country because they would just take the idea and do it on their own. So in reference to having a business in the Philippines, you can't own it outright, but I definitely encourage people to, if they're going to go to the Philippines, I think online businesses, something that you can control on your own, is definitely the best way to go about it. I mean, O'Shea, I know you mentioned earlier about corruption. Philippines is a very corrupt country, third world country. Politicians, you name it, everybody's got their hands in a pot somewhere. It was not really hard for me to get a business started, as far as, the process of getting one, together, like doing the paperwork and stuff. It wasn't really hard for me, but I had somebody who could be the face of the company, and I just played the background. So that kind of worked out for me. And that's kind of, if you're going to go that route in doing business overseas, that would be the best way to do it. But if you want to own anything in the Philippines, the only things that foreigners can own outright are condominiums. You can have your own condo and you can live there. You can rent it out. That could be a good business for some people to get into. But, in reference to starting businesses, well, let me say this. I think the main reasons why brothers such as ourselves go overseas, and some people may agree, some people may disagree, is it gives us a second chance. It gives people a chance to reinvent themselves. That's what I like to believe. Maybe shit didn't work out where we were before in the United States or wherever we are now. Maybe it didn't work out for us. So kind of taking a chance to go overseas, not become somebody new, but a chance to, immerse yourself in something different, because, where you are currently, start again, right? So it gives you a chance to start all over again. And I can speak personally for myself. When I went overseas and I came back to the United States the first time, you know, the people that I used to hang out with, the people that I used to associate with, I could no longer do that.
That is true.
I mean, our mentalities were different. You know, we just weren't on the same page, and we didn't have the same life goals. So I do remember somebody saying that earlier, that, you know, coming back to the United States, you do come back a better person. I do believe that traveling does help you become a better person overall. So I mean, I'll kind of
it
leave it at
it
that.
takes
But
away your opinions. It takes away your
mhm,
opinions and tests any opinions that you have, because many a times it's just you, and when you
right.
screw up, you screw
Hmm.
up.
Let me just
Yeah.
kind of add this real quick. So I'm kind of, you know, like certain countries like China. I know for a fact there's certain Asian countries, like, you know, like in America, like if you marry a foreigner, they could automatically become at some point like a U.S. citizen or get a green card or something like that. In certain countries like China or maybe even Philippines, I know China, you can marry, have kids, and they don't give a fuck. You're not a part of them. You know, my buddy's been here in Poland for over 6 years. He has a Polish wife. He still ain't a citizen. You know what I'm saying? So certain countries are going to keep foreigners. I think that's smart, right? Obviously, you know. So we got to also understand that, you know, certain countries, even if you feel like, oh man, it's cheaper to do stuff there, that doesn't mean that they're not going to keep. They're going to. A lot of countries have moved to protect themselves and their people first, right? And so that's something that you guys need to understand, especially with the, you know, Filipinos. You can only own, like, I think the maximum is like 40% of a house. I know in the Dominican Republic, if you even have a girl that stays in your house for 6 months and she don't want to leave, um, you can't put her out. So that means that she will be in your house and you can't put her out, right? Because she's a Dominican. So there's certain also loopholes and rules that I think a lot of black men need to understand, like, if you even want to think about going to certain places. But let me go to Ghana Dan, man. Ghana Dan, you go ahead and weigh in on it, brother.
Uh, we still on the David Carroll by black men not controlling their own
Yeah,
economy.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You
Okay.
know, talk about it from your perspective also.
Well, one of the biggest issues I see with black men is, you know, we we so caught up in chasing pussy, and because we've been groomed from birth to chase ass, we're not groomed from birth to build networks. Very few of us inherited networks like our parents. Made sure we knew the plumber or the mechanic, and we get, you know, and by them grooming those relationships, you know, we getting 5, 10% off on multiple services. So once black men start networking, start building trust with each other. You know, like when I'm in Ghana, you know, I got your back. You know, I'll make sure you comfortable, you got food and a woman. Um, and I'll have you, you know, give you a dossier like of businesses if you're looking to come to Ghana for businesses. Yeah, I'll let you know, hey, these are things that will work. This is how much it will cost. Because we got to start helping each other. We all we got. Like you said, we got to be autonomous. We got to work together. We have no choice. We don't have our black women as a whole. We don't have anybody else. All we got is each other. And at the end of the day, um, for those who are looking for external solutions beyond the U.S., you know, do all you can to solidify yourself if you can. And when you go to some of these countries, make sure you know the laws, understand the banking system. You know,
Mhm.
are foreigners able to get in an account? Um, Going back to the hobo traveler, instead of giving a woman $450 a month, find out what businesses you can start for $2,000, and then she works the business, be autonomous, and give you something to kick back every month. And you know, and because most of these banks and a lot of these countries got apps, you can monitor your bank account, even though you may be in the States. That's what I'm doing. So um, I'm not advocating any man trick. I'm advocating men be smart, have a strategy, not waste your time. You know, yeah, we like getting our dick wet, but at the end of the day, have a purpose, network your ass off, and you know, because all the people who are wealthy built wealth as a group. You're not gonna get money and build wealth on your own. Yeah, there are anomalies, but usually it takes a group effort. And one thing I found, good business usually bring good relationships. Usually a lot of relationships are fucked up over money and pussy. That's typically the reason why most black men fall out. You know, and that's it.
And if you don't mind me to add to what Ghana said, the important thing to do is to help your fellow brother basically make sure he is equipped with income, with land, and in this case, with women. Now, I want to emphasize that women part. And the reason why is this: the black race is the only race, or you should say black men are the only group of men who find ourselves spending ample amount of time gaming and hollering and tricking and doing all this sort of kind of stuff that other men don't need to do. And it's mainly because a lot of other men make sure that they are set up with somebody, whether it's in the Middle Eastern men you talked about in past videos, O'Shea, whether it's, and trust me, Middle Eastern men are very good with hooking up their own men with women. White dudes do it too. Yeah, granted, they'll probably cock block black dudes, especially in America, but they'll make sure their broskies are hooked up with something at the end of the night. Hispanic men, for the most part, do it as well. Asian men definitely do it, and Indian men, well, they do it to an extent as well, but that's a whole nother story. But the reason why I emphasize to make sure that your fellow men at least has the ability to get women, if not you hand them women themselves, is because, well, basically it's because every other men or every other group make sure that their men are not focused on trivial things and instead can focus on the more important things in life.
A very important thing you just said. Yes.
And
go ahead, excuse me.
I'm sorry. No, you're good. And just one last thing, and then I'll pass the mic off. And this doesn't come in the form, and I'm not calling out all the dating coaches, all the black dating coaches. Some of the guys here, they do a damn good job in actually helping their brothers get men, like your Ron Worlds, your Donovan Sharps, your AMS, even though some people may argue the way he argues in getting women. But there are some of these dating coaches who want to push this, oh, you got to have game, and then buy my books and stuff. No, that isn't how you help your brothers get women. You, at best, you're just trying to make a buck off of sexual or the lack of sexual access a lot of black men have. And at worst, I'm not going to go into that. But we have to help our brothers genuinely make sure they have the basic necessities of life: shelter, food, clothing, the job, and women.
Oh man, clap.
I would like to add something.
Yeah, go ahead and add to that. It's fine.
It's to our benefit to make sure each brother is just as strong as ourselves. A stronger O'Shea, a stronger Sub-Zero, stronger Mr. Research Edward is a stronger me. And by us helping each other, oh yeah. Because like, you know, what I'm striving to do in Ghana, I want to spread throughout Africa, you know, whereas you have self-sustainable communities. That means you got trees, which will feed children for generations, feed yourself. You got food security. You got control of water. If you don't have land directly on water, you got a well. And it benefits me to make sure you got a quality woman. So I don't want you fucking the village whore. I want you dealing with a woman of quality who's gonna not stress you, who's not gonna be sucking the dick as soon as you get on the tarmac, but you know, who has a vested interest in being respectful to you because she knows I'm watching and she knows that, you know, I have that brother's best interest in store. Because, you know, we got to make sure we all encompassing black men rather than just talking about pussy. We talking about business too, and we also helping each other invest and strategize and going forward. Thank you.
Let me add to that because you know, I think that's why arranged marriages are so vital in certain parts of the world, right? Because in the West, we have to get out and try to look for a wife and look and then date and all that stuff. And like you said, these guys, when they know they're going to be arranged marriage, they don't have to worry about that. They can focus their times on other things. And again, shout out to Howard Cooper. Your last video about black men are in second class citizens was also a point. Thank you so much, brother. This is what I want to say. You know, if you are a guy, like I said, especially if you show up in Africa, I'm not sure about the Philippines, but almost if you have that same work ethic, like that's one thing I like about America. America is a society built on achievement. Now it is a very individualistic type of society, but when you come to places like Poland, you come to places like like it's 4:00 in the morning here in Poland. I mean, I don't really this put me on my vacation. I really don't need to be doing the podcast, but America teaches you to, if you have an opportunity to take advantage of it, do it. And when you take that mindset to some place, it's a mindset that a lot of people in other countries don't have. They don't have it in Poland. They don't have the tenacity in a lot of parts of Africa. And then when you come there with that mindset, you're going to pretty much do very well. Women are just a byproduct of success, especially in third world countries. I mean, in Uganda, there's some of the best looking women with some of the biggest asses I've ever seen in my fucking life. And in Brazil, I'm pretty sure it's the same way. That's a byproduct of that. And that's another thing we got to start doing, brothers. Now, I agree exactly with Clutch. A lot of brothers do got to start setting up other brothers with women. And that's something that and thank you for mentioning that. That's something that I'm going to try to do myself personally. And start opening up the door for that, because it's something that we need to do. It's something that we need to really, it's enough pussy out here for all of us. You know what I mean? There's no need to be, wait, that's my house. No, because it's a lot of women out there, right? And it's something that, back in the days, it used to be like that, to a certain degree. And so I agree with a lot of talking points. Let me just talk about the bank account situation real quick. I tried to open up a bank account in Barclays. I'm pretty sure you know this. Damn, Evan Moore. Shit.
$100.
$100. What do you do in Japan, man? Shout out to Evan Moore for the 10,000 Japanese yen. Let me just say this real quick. Barclays is a bank out of the United Kingdom. You can get so they'll be in Ghana. They should be they're definitely in Uganda, right? As far as a checking account, I tried to start up a checking account there. They told me I needed 6 months of payment history and 6 months of bank statements, right? Now here I use a bank called ING in Poland. I just needed to show up with my passport and my visa for being here, and I instantly got an account with no money down, right? They just opened it up. As far as the banking system that you need to understand, if you're getting a bank system like in Africa, a lot of times to operate a checking account, they're gonna charge you, at least Barclays, they want almost like $17 a month just to maintain a checking account. So what does this tell me? This tells me that in this part of Africa that they don't make a lot of money off of the loans. Like in America, money comes off of car loans. Money comes off of home loans, right? That's how they make a lot of money. Or CDs or other kind of investments. In this part of Africa, what they're saying is we're not going to get a lot of money off of loans, right? It's too high a risk for us to do it. So how we make our money is we make our money off the accounts. Okay. So you got to understand that, that there are going to be certain things that are going to be required if you want to have a bank account. If you're a foreigner, it could be a difficult process. They'll need like a passport photo, stuff like that. So just understand that, different parts of the world, because Bank of America would never charge you that kind of money to have a checking account open. And that's definitely going to happen in certain parts of Africa, because that's how the bank makes money in this part of Africa versus home loans and stuff. So different strategies to do certain things. Let me kind of go to who's next? I think, was it Sub-Zero? Okay, Sub-Zero. Let me start it off with you this time. And so you've lived all over the world in sports. And so what I want to know is, okay, why are we even having this conversation? Why are black men thinking about, why, should we move? Should we get out of this matrix? Why are black men, in your opinion, even having these thoughts? Why just even a conversation?
I think it's I would say, man. I mean, let's just look at the history, man. I mean, we have, we had slavery, we got out, Jim Crow, black codes, just follow all the way up through to today. I mean, it's just so many things that have set us back. And I think one of the key indicators of this is when African born immigrants come into this country and when they matriculate into the society, they succeed. They don't have the same, things holding them back that we have. So clearly, there's a lot that has been done to us systematically over the hundreds of years we've been free. So I think it kind of sets us up where we feel as though we need to get away from it. I was just watching something about the programming of the Jews and how they control the media and the images that they send of with the gangster rap and all that. It's so much, and so we're kind of it's only natural that we would want to get away from this, that we would look at all this wealth and like how foreigners look at it as the land of prosperity, and then it's only natural that we look at it and like, oh, it's not all it's cut out to be, and we want to go to a third world country. We'd rather, if you'd rather go live in a third world country where the lights get cut off sometimes, that just goes to show how fucked up it is in this country. So I'm not surprised one bit. I think, and like Edwin Anderson said, me and him talk offline sometime about this, that when people go to these foreign countries, be it for sex or for whatever, the exposure, one byproduct of that will also, present opportunities. There's one documentary I would advise anyone watching this to go see. It's on YouTube called Without Black. I think it's Blacks Without Borders. Sure, most people have seen it, but just go watch it and listen to some of these brothers. One brother left the country broke, and he wound up doing pretty well in South Africa. So, it's I just think the history just bears out the reason why we can't even trust each other. I mean, I'm looking at something with Bayard Rustin and James Baldwin and how they betrayed us in a lot of different things. But we still have been taught by white liberals to love these, love them and look up to them. But in many ways, they set us up into the integration, and it's just a bunch of mess, man. So it's so much. If you black in America, especially a black man, where you're not really coddled, you don't have all these social programs, you're gonna think soberly. You're gonna have to.
Okay. Let me go to sort of Edward Anderson.
Yeah, man, I concur with. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, I concur with Sub-Zero. I mean, I'm gonna break some of this so much down because I mean it's almost an overwhelming question because it's like, why not lead? When you know what's out there. But pretty much, I wanted to jump around on a couple of different things people said. I'm gonna bring that back to answering the question.
Okay.
One of the things, as far as a big reason why, Clutch hit it on the money with the female thing too. And I never thought about it like that, but it's absolutely true about, I hear a smart person say, if you want to lead people, you got to be able to feed people. And that's not necessarily just with food. That could be with opportunities. That could be with networks. That could be with women, as far as telling them where the good women and don't act like they got some goddamn sense with. And look at this conversation that we've had. Like, seriously, like, really look at the conversation we've had just now, just off talk about overseas and how that's kind of piggybacked over a lot of different stuff. I mean, we're having conversations that, quite frankly, you, outside of maybe the manosphere, you would never actionably have in the manosphere, because when you leave the United States, it, like Mr. Research said, it forces you to challenge certain ideals that you just thought because that's the water you were swimming in. So like a lot of people don't realize how much intense the cultural and social programming is. Sub-Zero mentioned it with liberals, with Jews, whatever. That stuff has to be constantly driven down your throat. And when you get into an environment where it's a different culture, that's when you really realize how powerful the programming is. And a lot of this, image issue, like embracing, thuggery and hip hop culture and all of that, when you go into another country where you don't feel obligated to invest in that type of bullshit, You actually, for the first time, probably honestly give yourself permission to become who you really are. And then as far as black men, nobody is more invested in keeping black men weak, keeping black men docile, keeping black men chasing pussy as America. America is the most invested in keeping African American men weak. And you can call that whatever. You can call it the Jews, you can call it black women, you can call that white supremacy, you could call that other women, because we're only valued for our sex and labor in America. That's it. So anything that we do is based on our athleticism, which is labor that people can make more money on, or our sexual, sexual prowess or whatever. Everything else is pretty much kill black men, destroy black men mentally, destroy black men in the world. And just to bring that back, because I actually wrote a lot of notes if y'all heard me typing. I'm gonna say this to answer your question directly. You said at the beginning of this video, no, you didn't. You said this on the autonomous video, that black men die first. Black men never, ever. We're last in everything that's good. We're first in everything that's bad. We die first, and we always take care of everybody but ourselves until we're fat, can have nothing, and then we get thrown away. That's pretty much how black men want to trap.
Oh, yeah. And for that reason, to be honest, as I said, if you have all your stuff together, if you've done everything you could in America, or that if you've done everything you can in America and you still can't find a break, whether it's in the career fields or socially or sexually, I'm all for leaving this country. I'm all for going where you're wanted. Okay. Because to be quite honest, and I don't want to jump in there, Edward, but as far as what you emphasize and what you said about the invested interest of America in making black men look weak, black men look destructive, and black men look archaic, quite frankly. It's all, you guys will finally realize what I have realized a long time ago by traveling to other countries. Granted, a lot of it's been in the Western Hemisphere, but still, when you go outside the country, you realize that certain people will look at you not for your skin color, but for your personality, but for your character. And once you realize that, you will come to find out that all that white supremacy, worldwide stuff that the pro-blacks and hoteps talk about, a lot of it's just a farce. And that you'll finally realize that black male hatred is an American-made concept.
Well, I'll say this with that, because it's let's just say it's the most intense in the United States. It's pretty much it's like in the Matrix, when you went to the third movie where they saw the dude with the head, or the second Matrix, you saw the white dude that looked like Colonel Sanders. It's the epicenter of the bullshit. So if you're used to dealing with this, you're pretty much used to as far as worse it's gonna get as far as if you're a productive male. I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna pass the mic to kind of bring my thoughts a little bit more clearly. One of the things a lot of people need to understand, if you don't listen to none of the stuff I just said, listen to this. The biggest element of control is your environment. And the reality is a lot of black men allow themselves to be the product of their environment. They don't make their environments the product of them. Part of you being the product of the environment is you staying in the same damn place. I'm from Chicago. Well, little brief history of me. I was born in Compton, California. I left when I was 4. My whole family's from Chicago. My brothers were born in Chicago. I know people that have never left Chicago. I know people that can't tell you 2 cities in Illinois outside of Cook County. It's that serious. 2018. So the point of what I mean is your environment defines how you think. It's like you being a 2-dimensional character. If Clutch comes at you talking about 3 dimensions, you looking at him like he's retarded, because you only know left and right. You only know lift and whip. You have no idea depth. If Clutch comes at you talking about the 4th dimension, which is time, well, you probably gonna start calling him names, because you either think he's being patronizing like they did with Q, or you're gonna think that he's just weird. And it's not, you don't realize that it's not him necessarily, it's you, and he's expanding your mind so fast it's gonna start to snap. And the reality is your environment. If you get, and this doesn't even mean internationally, hell, you get in your environment, go to the East Coast if you're from the West Coast, vice versa. You'll see a little bit of difference doing that. But the biggest change, because all of that is subject to American programming that Sub-Zero and Clutch has talked about, when you leave the country, hell, look at CNN in the United States versus CNN outside the United States. When I was in the Philippines, the first thing I saw when I pulled up CNN International was a beautiful black woman. I was like, whoa, I'm not used to seeing this shit. So it's completely different, and it will change you even if you don't think it did. So get out of your environment so you can expand the game board and expand your mind. All right, I'm good.
Let me just shout out JJ. After a first set of black men, kids turns 18, black men move out. America don't value or respect older single men. Don't wait for the divorce or second child support case. Brothers, and thank you again, brother, for donating. Give me 18 more likes. It is 4:23 in the morning. Guys, I usually what happens, I'll plan a podcast and I'll fall asleep and I'll leave I left Clutch hanging like that one night, man. I was like, we're gonna do a show, and then I still owe him. We're gonna do a show 1-on-1, but I was like, man, I can't fall asleep, man. Let me go ahead and get these black men together, man, so they can so we can have that stuff, because it's always a good thing. But unfortunately, we had a pre-show with me, Edward, and Mr. Researcher. That was like an hour in itself in Clutch. And so what we'll do is let the last two people talk and let everybody close out, and I'm gonna go ahead and go to bed because it's almost 5 in the morning here. I don't have no class tomorrow because I'm on a 19-day break because of I don't have a rotation starting till 23rd. So let me go to Dr. Mike, and then we'll go to I believe we're gonna go to I think Sub-Zero. Did he speak on this already? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, and then we're gonna go to Ghana Dan, and that's it. Go ahead, Dr. Mike.
Can you run it back for me real quick? Or what you would like me to talk about real quick?
I think I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, why are black men? Okay, no, because you have a channel. You're the only guy that you do Filipino news content or Philippine content. I don't know how you keep coming up with the content, but you do it.
I'm surprised
every day.
I surprised myself, man. Yeah, I mean, but go ahead. What was the question?
Why are black men even considering some of us? Like, it's a big thing. Moving out of the United States, starting over someplace else, when they're living in supposedly the greatest country in the world with the most opportunities.
In my personal opinion, the reason most of us move out is because maybe they've gotten to the point where they feel like there's nothing else here for them. I mean, that wasn't my situation, but a lot of guys, it just depends on the mentality of the individual you're talking to. Some people, like I said, they want to start over. Some people want a different opportunity. Some people want to travel for sex. Let's not overlook that. A lot of people go travel for different reasons. Mm-hmm. My personal opinion, I travel for cultural diversity. I travel for the experience alone. Like I said, I've been in a couple of other countries, but I spent the majority of my time in the Philippines. So I travel simply to go to school. I tell people that all the time. I mean, women, like I think you mentioned before, the women for me was nothing more than a benefit. If I didn't pass a class, if I didn't do something right, I get kicked out the country because I was on a student visa. So my life had purpose when I was in the Philippines. But see, experiencing, dealing with the women and stuff like that, I got to understand the culture. I got to understand the people. And overall, I realized personally that I felt like the positive outweighed the negative. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason why I chose to stay around. After I finished my undergraduate degree, I could have said, fuck this, man, and just go back. It just went back home. But, I kept going, I kept pushing, and I finished, I got my doctorate degree, so I'm done. But ultimately, I realized that the positive outweighs the negative in another country, or you feel like, what? I feel like I'm not necessarily more wanted here, but you feel like you get the attention that you deserve in another country. These are the reasons why most guys stay around, or the reason why most men move to other countries. Maybe the women in your particular country, whether it be the United States or wherever, they're not, you may not feel like you get the respect you deserve. So you go to a place where you feel like you're going to get the respect that you deserve.
Right.
And for some people, that's in Southeast Asia. I'm not going to say these women worship you, because that's not always the case, but I can honestly say that their mentality, the way that they were brought up, and the way that they do view foreigners, they do give you the attention that most guys feel like they desperately deserve. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, it brings out the best in them. Ironically, sometimes having a woman in your corner, or for lack of a better term, having somebody in your corner, or somebody who believes in you, or somebody who's there to encourage you to do shit, makes you a better person. So
Right.
I mean, there are different reasons why guys choose to travel. So I mean, that's kind of like a quick tip, but that's kind of my philosophy on why most guys choose to get out of the matrix.
Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 And last but not least, we're gonna definitely get my man. We want to get my man. Ghana Dan to close us out, because now Ghana, I'm gonna ask you, because you went to I know Dr. Mike, just like me. I came to Poland solely because I got accepted to medical school here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have came. But in your case, what was your reason that you went to Ghana, and why do you feel other brothers are even considering going to Ghana or going other places in the first place?
I felt it would be easier to pass on a stronger legacy. When I did my research on Ghana, and when it come to land ownership, and I saw the environment, I saw that they didn't have any major um, life altering type of situations like earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes and shit. I felt like that was a place that I could set some roots, and I've moved on that. Um, you know, Most black men make moves for out of the U.S. for two reasons: they have nothing to lose in the U.S., or they're leaving for investment opportunities. I was kind of in the middle because I've always done well, doing well now, but I see the bigger picture. I want a bigger slice of the pie. Um, America processes the ores and the minerals and things that come out of Africa. I want to get at the source. So, um, to me, going to Africa is more so a strategy, and also positioning myself to build wealth, or at least give my children um, access to a stronger platform. I'm 45 now. My goal is to make sure my sons and my daughters are where I am now by 30. I want them to be at least where I am by 30, and then keep that culture where they giving their children a 5 to 10 year 5 year to 10 year head start, or or the foundation is that much stronger. But I understand. A lot of brothers are hurting. Dysfunctional families, society don't give a fuck about them. Like the brother said, we only respect it for two things. Our labor and sex. And for those who have awakened and starting to value their mind, time, and bodies, want more. We want peace of mind in our home. We want thriving relationships with women. And then those who have positioned themselves financially, it only makes sense to go overseas and look for additional opportunities, because you can get in at ground level on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You I'm choosing agriculture because everybody else is running from agriculture because it's not sexy. You know, and I'll make a mint in Ghana. You know, I'll make $10,000 uh every 3 months
Mm-hmm.
easily. There ain't a lot of money in the U.S., but there's a shitload of money in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can downsize my life, minimize my headaches, and make a great amount of money. Um, you know, Doing something simple. It doesn't take a lot of skill to do agriculture, but you know, brothers are hurting. I understand the frustration, but those who have positioned themselves, man, look towards Africa, look towards these so-called third world nations, and do some investing. And and build and expand that portfolio, and hopefully you may be in a position to network and give some of these young brothers who want to get out opportunities to run some businesses. Because we need to start hiring black men too.
Yeah.
So
Yes. This is the thing. That's the same thing that Mr. Research said, and that is absolutely so true. Is there anything else you want to weigh in on that, Ghana Dan? Or
nah, man, I'm good, man. I appreciate everybody on the panel. Y'all some kick-ass brothers. Look forward to networking and building with you. And I thank you for your time as always.
All right, and Ghana Dan, you know, he showed me his tax return. I thought I had some money, and I was like, God damn, that's like three to four times the money that I get. I felt like a little bitch after that. But I'm gonna just say this about you, brothers, man. I cannot say enough great things about these brothers that I've worked with. Sub Zero 369. We've been doing some shows. I met him through Black Men Taking Our Community Back, and then Edward Anderson. You know, I met him, and then he told me to because me and Sub Zero did the show. He's like, hey, I want you to show Sub Zero again. I was like, yeah, man, we're thinking about that. So we've been doing that. Sub Zero, he put the not Sub Zero, but Edward put the bug in my ear. Also with Alvin Hollinger to do Hustlers Kung Fu, and it's just really good to hear a lot black men talking about the issues that do matter, and this is important because it all starts small someplace, you know what I'm saying, and really we have to put our certain experiences on the table. Certainly they need to be talked about, and we want people to understand that as a group, even though we're it's a small group of black men talking about these things, we do want to get these things out because a lot of brothers thinks about these things all the time, and a lot of brothers are supporting this. I want to shout out to Examples Clutch, all you brothers, man, who are light years intelligent, bright. I'll let anybody who has any last words you want to say.
I wanted to interject one thing.
Sure.
Do I have an echo?
It's all right.
No.
It's cool. It's not really.
Okay. I'll just take. Just so you guys know, I'm actually doing a class right now. I'm training, and it was really enlightening, or I would say encouraging to me, is that I got like about 40 some odd brothers that I'm training in business intelligence, SQL Server. I do database development. That's what I do. I do IT, and I'm getting calls every few minutes. So, I just want to, if any of y'all brothers want to get into the IT industry, hit me up, Sub-Zero 3639. I've been talking to people offline. I filled up 2 classes now, look like. So you probably, if you come now, you're gonna probably be looking at August because they done took up the next 4 months of my time, part-time. So, but I don't mind because to me, it's about, getting brothers, from us as black people. If you go look on Wikipedia or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average black person's around $41,000 right now. And we need to fix that so that, more of us can matriculate up into upper middle class and start really getting our hands on resources so we can, hey, I need to buy a ticket to go to Africa. It's, tickets sometimes run $2,000. Well, a lot of brothers can't get their hands on that. But if you make $2,500 a week, it wouldn't be a big deal. You say, okay, well, I'll probably buy that ticket next week or something,
Right.
So that's just something I just want to put out there for the brothers. I'm doing that on my channel. I didn't want to really push it per se yet because it's getting full. But if y'all reach out to me, man, I'm here to chat, here for the brothers. Anybody that want to learn or something like that, I'm definitely down. I'm gonna spend time, and we'll start from, what's a select statement, all the way to what's a report, and we'll do everything in between. So.
Right. Now, I believe we've had brothers from this channel that have done so. Let me just put you on. Thanks, because echoing. Anybody else got anything to say? Any last things to say?
If I can interject real quick, I'll say real quick. I did want to add that one of the main reasons that brothers actually do travel is because it's cheaper to live in some foreign countries than it is to live in the United States, especially in Asia. And I say that it's cheaper, and you can really, your money can go a long way. That's something that I really do agree when it comes to living in foreign countries. And one thing is, we were talking about the plane tickets. Like my brother said, cost you $2,000 to get a plane ticket, but once you in country, you're good because the cost of living is cheap after that. As opposed to traveling to like somewhere in New York, you pay $200, $300 for the ticket, but you may spend $100, $200 a day to do daily activities. Eating, going around, and like buying stuff. So, that's another thing to keep in mind. But that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and definitely quality of life, man, is quality of life and peace. I mean, I can tell you like this, like, you know, even in Poland when it's not snowing, it's peaceful. Man, I can just walk out. It's safe. No guns, no gun violence. You got to worry about that. Nobody getting shot or anything like that. And people are just nice for the most part. So, guys, I just want to thank all of you for, you know, just shout out to Eric P. Some clicking before the big vacay O'Shea. So we're going to be doing some great things. I just wanted to say one last thing before I go. The Negro Manosphere Award is still going on. The forum is back up. We had a little bit of an issue. Shout out to Junk Pile Video. There will be a NFL draft party. So I think what I'm gonna do is, and there's no money that will be required for you guys to do this, but I'm gonna come up with a ballot, and anybody who gets, so for the first round of the NFL draft, anybody who gets the closest amount of correct picks will win $50. So like you don't have to put any money into it, so there's no pot or anything. You just, you know, submit your you email me your draft list. There's a dude, Ken from the scouting thing. We're gonna do a pre-recorded show pretty soon. So guys, you know, you do that, and you know, we'll have like a pre-draft party or something like that. You know, a show for the sports, and for those who are in the NFL, we'll do that. Let me just read some questions. Shout out to JL Edwards Show idea. Why black colleges don't create more networks, business ideas, stabilities? I'll try to do that. That's probably hard to do a 2-hour show just on that, but it could definitely be a segment. So yeah, I mean, I went to a black college. Can we do a show on low cost businesses that can be started internationally? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, depends on what low cost is. I can tell you what you can do. YouTube. Yeah. Shout out to Josiah Johnson, man. I traveled the world 3 times to train on my. Shout out to him. That's Black Male Talk. And Black Male Talk, man, got to get you on here too, brother, on this particular show. Guys, thank you so much. It's almost 5 a.m. I got to get to bed and do some shit tomorrow. Love you guys. I'm out this motherfucker up.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Yep.